Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be showing you my explosive shot bow build. This is an effective all-around good build. Generally speaking, there's not going to be many weaknesses. This build is very good with sustained DPS. It's not going to be doing the most DPS. But by no means it's not a glass cannon at all either. It has good defense, really effective defense, and it's very simple and easy to use. So generally speaking, if you don't need to keep a lot of things up, it's very simple. You're just using effectively one weapon the majority of the time, and swapping off sometimes if you need to use a defensive item or mod, for example. It's very effective in Apocalypse. It's one of the builds that I personally use for Apocalypse. This is going to basically allow you to do anything and everything with general ease. There's not going to be a lot of times where you're going to be struggling, as long as you are playing reasonably. Obviously, if you are getting hit a bunch of times, this isn't going to be the best build for you, but generally speaking, it has a lot of lifesteal. It has a lot of good sustained damage versus non-weak spot bosses and weak spot bosses, and it has a really good higher end defense in general. So you're going to have a lot of an easier time, and it's the lowest dodge, so you definitely have the best mobility, the best sustain for DPS. It's not crazy high. And decently well defense, and you have good life leech. So generally speaking, in Apocalypse, you're using this build, you're not going to have any issues, really. All right, now I'm just going to go over a 3 boss rush and show you the gameplay, and then after that I'll show you some various different DPS amounts for each variation in the build that I have. It's usually just swapping out one mod item, and that's pretty much it. So enjoy.
Looks like I'm full up. Whoa, it's over. Can't carry anymore.
The guilty are beyond forgiveness. They get fun. Damn it. And torture! Die slowly.
Bag's full. Looks like I'm full up. I've never seen anything like this before. Come on! Won't fit.
This is not as... Having trouble. I will not hold your creature such as this.
Okay, so now we're going to show you just the base DPS with 100% crit chance on the legendary mod. It's just base DPS with no mods or no skills. So as you can see, like, this DPS is pretty considerable considering that a lot of weapons or a lot of builds, generally speaking, aren't pulling this amount of DPS for an average thing unless you're really focusing on the damage. This one focuses on lifesteal and damage and survivability and mobility. It has kind of a bit of everything, and it's kind of like this, like the perfect all-arounder. With the mod for Rotten Arrow, you're not going to be using this as a DPS increase. You're simply going to be using it as a way to kill a large amount of targets, or if you need to shoot between, like if you're killing ads, for example, in the Ravager, where he spawns in the little guys and you don't kill them quick enough, and let's say they're rolling at you, you can shoot quickly, change to mod, swap, shoot those two guys, they both die, and then refocus the boss. It's just like a quick thing to like better acquisition of killing multiple targets, and that's basically the only reason. You're not going to be using this for DPS. You're just going to be shooting regular arrows. Next, I'm going to show you the corrosive version. So with this, it's going to be way more boss DPS. It's going to be doing a lot more damage. This one I actually did without the crit percent, the crit chance, 100% crit chance. So this is more likely what you're going to have if you don't have that legendary effect yet. Periodically critting. This is, I don't really have the best prism either for DPS, but as you can see, it's pulling a decent amount of damage with just the corrosive as an addition, and I'm not doing that 100% crit chance all the time with the explosive, so I'm losing a lot of DPS. Obviously that was the burst, but generally speaking the sustain is very strong. I don't really have a lot of bonus, but now I'm going to change to 100% crit chance, and you're going to see that the burst is going to be much higher and more consistent. I kind of mess up here, so I lose a lot of DPS, but generally speaking, it's always going to be a lot more DPS if you're critting all the time, right, with the crit, or with the explosive damage. It's also going to make your damage more consistent. You're always going to be consistently doing that explosive crit, which will raise your DPS in general. And if you're fighting mobs that have, most mobs have like 1,000 health tops most of the time, and maybe like a little bit more, or not 1,000, but like probably have like 1,500 about on Apocalypse. Every shot is going to kill almost every single target. As you can see in the previous runs, I was shooting, one-shotting almost everything. This is on Apocalypse as well, take into consideration. And a lot of bigger bosses, you're going to be shooting like 2 or 3 times and they're dead anyway, so. Also, the melee weapon here, as you can see, if you're caught in a tight spot or something, or for some reason you need to use a melee, just throwing your weapon does a big burst of damage. Like that's 3.5k, 3.5k damage just from throwing a spear. I did forget to say one thing. When it comes to this build, you are going to have a pet with you. I do recommend the support dog. It's going to give you that passive health regeneration. So when you're not damaging enemies, like if you let's say you're like half-life and you have nothing to damage, because you basically get a lot of your healing back through leech, even though you do have some passive regeneration. You know, you don't. So you don't have passive regeneration. So it's important to note that a lot of your healing is going to come from support dog, getting that passive health regeneration. And if you are in combat and there's nothing around, you can't hit something because it's immune or something, popping your cooldown to heal you is also really nice. But as I said, having the dog with you will be able to self-res you, of course, as you see in the 3 boss rush when I make a mistake. So it's important knowing that this is going to make a big difference in your survivability and give you a lot more chances. A lot of people don't really recognize this or remember this, or there's penalties for when you have heavy armor. So that means you can dodge less. Obviously, we're in town, so you can't see my stamina drain. But having a lower armor class helps you dodge more, so you have functionally more dodges as well. Something to keep in mind. If you feel like you're okay with having a little bit less DPS, then swapping to this legendary perk. Like, this build is very flexible. You don't really need a specific type of legendary perk. You can kind of use whatever you want. As you can see, like, I'm still doing relatively decent damage. It's not exceptional in any way, right? But when you're mobbing, things are going to die one shot. when you're in a boss, you're still going to be doing a significant amount of damage, right? A lot of the time, people will be using a gun where you have to sit there and deal damage. For example, like just the plasma cutter, right? Now, if you shoot this, it does some good damage over time, and the damage ramps up. Obviously, this build isn't optimized for this. But like, okay, I reached like 1.8k DPS on the high end. But let's say I'm like moving around, rolling, right? I'm going to be losing a lot of that DPS, right? And I'm going to have to reload to get that ramp DPS, because as you can see, the DPS is increasing, and it's not just because of the mutator I'm using. It is also inherently part of the gun that increases damage the longer you leave the beam on. So something to note, having this bow allows you to maintain a good amount of DPS, because you're doing your DPS in chunks. So like I can climb back to my original DPS much faster, generally speaking, because it's done in chunks. And that gives me a lot more options for dealing damage. Let's say, for example, I'm rolling away from an enemy, and I need to kill him really quickly, right? And he's charging me. And you'll see this in the video as well, the 3 boss rush. An enemy getting close to me, I can kill them quickly, right? Whereas if I'm using plasma cutter, and I need to damage them, and I need to focus them again because they're not dead yet, and now they're dead, right? And then I can focus the next target, and then I can focus the next target. Where this shoots a chunk of DPS, right? Chunk of DPS. So as long as you're hitting your target, not missing, your kill effectiveness is going to be very high. So you're always going to be mobbing pretty well. Okay, so I don't have the mod back. And pretty quickly, you see how quickly I'm getting this mod back. So you have a pretty good amount of uptime. Especially for a boss, you're going to have that great uptime of having that corrosion on it all the time. And obviously, if you feel like you don't want to use that yet, or you don't have that yet, you can use your spear to apply the corrode buff, do that extra DPS, right, to optimize your damage. And this is also taken into consideration. I don't have a 100% crit chance right now. You can use almost any type of legendary perk. You can use the 100% crit chance. If you want more like consistent DPS, getting to around that 3k DPS on average. Or if you feel like you need a lot more armor, using one of the legendary effects that increase your damage reduction, or the armor. I think the armor is probably the best one, simply because you have Fortify to boost up that armor effectiveness, as well as if you use this armor bonus, you get even more percentage, which is insane. And as you can see, I have no bonuses to my damage on my prism. Nothing here helps my damage. And I'm still doing a considerable amount of damage, considering. Like, I'm still shooting basically around 2k per shot no matter what, with the explosive damage and my arrow, right? If I'm not hitting a target, I'm still doing a good chunk of... I'm always always hitting 1,000, which is a lot of damage for, as I said, a lot of mobs don't have that much health. They usually have like 1,500 around there, maybe a little bit less, depending on the enemy. So you're always basically one-shotting everything. Now, obviously, I do have my relic fragments, crit damage, and you want charge time for your bow, and then getting that explosive damage. When you do boss rush on higher tier difficulties, and like let's say you're doing boss 7, boss rush 7, or boss rush 19, you want to scale with explosive damage, critical damage, and generally speaking, most of the time on 19 boss rushes, you usually want to go for some type of like health bonus, not health regeneration. Health regeneration isn't that great. I believe it gives you a percentage of health regeneration, so it's based on your current health regeneration. Obviously, if you have no other option, go for it. But generally speaking, you want to be aiming for base health, base armor, damage reduction, All those good things. Those are the things you really want. I don't think there's much else that you would really want. A lot of the time, a lot of builds lack a lot of damage reduction. And I don't mean just the stat. I mean, just a lot of people won't wear a lot of heavy armor. And if they do wear heavy armor, they don't usually have a lot of damage reduction. You'll note if I take this off, I have 40 damage reduction, which is decent. That's good. But if I put on like heavy armor, put on those. I only have 61% damage reduction. And that's good. But if you don't have fast roll, your survivability dramatically decreases. And obviously you can static dodge. But there's a lot of it adds to your downtime of your DPS because the recovery time is just so slow, right? So like I'm gonna dodge and try to melee. It's a very long time to recover from dodges and rolls or flops, even if you are somehow getting that dodge roll. It's just not really worth it. And obviously if I put that armor bonus on with it, you're getting pretty close to max damage reduction, which is 80 as it says here. As you can see, just with 150 armor, flat armor, you'll see that I'm reaching beyond wearing Leto's armor, as well as being able to have light dodge. Take into consideration, I do have strong back. I only put a few points in. Having a little bit of dodge distance can be extremely helpful. I only have 3 points in it, and you can see that it almost looks like it's a considerably greater distance. 9% doesn't seem like a lot, but it can be great for creating that distance, especially since the frequency of dodge is higher because I'm wearing lighter armor. So getting that distance to shoot can be really nice. Also, take into consideration, this explosion damage doesn't hurt you. Also, something that's very interesting is if you have certain... This build almost works with any type of legendary perk. I had the legendary perk that gives you life, that all of your lifesteal, 50% of it, 50% of the value, the healing from your lifesteal will apply to other players. And I found that a lot of the time, it was pretty crazy where I was basically healing my whole team as long as they weren't getting one shot, as long as they could take a few hits, I was basically consistently healing them. So this can even be a support build with great DPS, great survivability, and mobility, of course, with the rolling and the light armor class. So all around, it's pretty difficult to not have a good legendary perk on this because you get so much value out of, but the majority of them, you're going to get a good amount of value. Okay, so here's the weapons and the armor and the equipment. So Infinity Pocket, because you're using an arrow, you're always going to have infinite ammo. You don't have to worry about any type of ammo. We're using the crit rings, pretty common for a lot of DPS builds. 0 hour, it's probably the best name in the game. Detonator. We're using Volatile Strike because every time you poke, it's always going to be a crit for explosive damage. And then the Sure Shot, I'm using that shielding mod just as a backup. If I feel like if I'm dying, I just swap to it. I shoot anything. You can shoot nothing and get a 25% health shield. And I can swap to my mod, shoot 2, and I have 75% shield. And here are the prism effects, 100% crit chance. Because you can see I don't have a lot of bonuses for my prism. I could roll a way better prism. Explosive damage, crit damage, all those things. But as you see, I'm not going to be doing the most DPS with this imperfect prism, but if I was, I'd be doing a lot more DPS, considerably a lot more. All right, that's it for the video. More Remnant 2 builds to come. I will be sharing some more personal builds of mine for Apocalypse. I'll also be looking over some fun themed builds as well. So thanks for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe. Have a good one. Bye.